Hey everyone, I'm at USC, the place to be and where to find me. And we're over here at 45 Avenue S in beautiful Brooklyn, New York. And again, the name is USC, and it's a members only coffee house. It's a members only coffee house.
Illuminati is a thing you need to watch out for. They want to depopulate and slave us so much more. World domination, I'll get into that later. I'm hardcore, fierce and sexy. You're just a hater. You deserve the ridicule because you're an absolute zero. I'm the keeper of the chalice, a rock and roll hero. I'm not an idiot nobody listens to, because I'm not a failure in life like you. Let's talk about Bill Gates and the mark of the beast and the orgies in the streets at the Catholic feasts and Bill and Hillary's human trafficking ring. And George Soros got the money to pay for everything. Socialism is for losers, working for the devil. Chumps that can't fight, they ain't on my level. It takes an evil one to try to debunk and doubt it, so I'd rather die than stop talking about it. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out. Watch out for the Illuminati. Watch out for the Illuminati.
Welcome to the MC Too Tall Show with your hardcore, fierce, and sexy host, MC Too Tall. And apparently, someone has road-killed an inflatable pink flamingo in front of my house here at Krantz Mansion. And may he rest in plastic. Or she, or more appropriately, it, because it's a piece of plastic at the end of the day. As it's said in the cliche, at the end of the day, at the end of the day. I first heard that cliche in a movie theater watching the movie adaptation of Les Miserables. But anyway, moving right along, my folks, moving right along, let us talk about the concept of coalitions or tents, as people on the left want to describe it, and big tents, as they say. I prefer not to call our movement a tent. The left could call their movement a tent all they want. It's appropriate. The big tent, the big top, as it is a circus over there on the left with a bunch of, at the risk of cursing, a bunch of fucking clowns over there on the left. And so, those are clowns, evil clowns, that like to brand us on the right side of this country's future as, of all things, Nazis. And there are people who are sent in to infiltrate. Some would even get up close and personal with Donald Trump, enough so to get in pictures with him and even act as speakers at his rallies. I mean, anybody could take a picture with Donald Trump and say that they know Donald Trump. Jeffrey Epstein did it. Why can't certain other people, especially if they order a Chinese-made MAGA hat on Amazon? This is American-made, by the way. But some people get their Chinese knockoff MAGA hats. They'll stand next to Donald Trump, take pictures with Donald Trump, call themselves MAGA, and then say things that totally destroy what we're trying to do here. And MAGA isn't all about the man Donald Trump himself. It's about a movement literally to make America great again, bring America back to a level of greatness, because it was great, is not anymore, but on its way to becoming again. That's the concept of what Make America Great Again means. And there are some people who are part of it that Donald Trump might not get along with them, and they might not get along with Donald Trump, but they are the best people for a return to normality or normalcy, as you would say. And you got to vote on policy and not for who's got a better chance of preventing things from getting worse. If there's somebody in the running with a bunch of policies and proposals for improvement, that's who you go for. Even if the odds are stacked against that person, because your vote is your voice. Even if that voice is of an unpopular opinion in the times. There was a time when you would get rocks thrown at you for saying it's not a good idea to transition an 11-year-old boy into an 11-year-old girl. And I believe that transitioning children below the legal age of consent is so that these children, especially the male to female transitions, are to create concubines for sleazy, rich, wrinkly, old white men to pass around as their personal floozies or communal floozies within their little satanic community. The purpose of changing the sex of a child is for sexual purposes of the adults that want to do this to them. And that is not what our coalition's about. That is what their circus tent of evil clownery is about. Now, I'm not going to go in on a particular individual that I believe was sent in to infiltrate. I made a whole video about that person. I really don't want to exacerbate my video time on that one particular person. But there have been people that have latched on to Donald Trump and have previously sabotaged Donald Trump and are collectively the very reason why Donald Trump did not serve 2 consecutive terms. People like Mike Pence, people like Bill Barr, Michael Cohen, John Bolton, most certainly. These were people part of the previous Trump administration, and then Donald Trump saw them for what they were, and one by one either ousted them himself or put pressure on them to find their own way to the door. So it's very important to keep our movement strong. Strength is not in the size of the tent, but in the quality of the people running the tent. And again, I don't like to say tent, I like to say the operation, the coalition, the movement. These are words I like to use for what we're doing here on our side of the fence, on our team. And this is a team hat. that I'm wearing. Whereas if you were to wear a Kamala Harris Tim Walz hat, or a Joe Biden Kamala Harris hat, or an Obama Biden hat, you're not wearing the hat of your team, you're wearing the hat of your oppressors. Unless, of course, you're one of us on the right and you're just throwing it on there to mock the people of that circus tent. They have everything in there from jihadists to communists that call themselves democratic socialists, to child groomers that insist on transitioning boys into girls for their own sexual pleasure, to just outright child rapists, to people that have to be ejected from office or forced out of a campaign because of sleazy, inappropriate sexual scandal. So, if you're not part of that team, if that's not what you're about, and you're still calling yourself a Democrat, maybe you should cut that calling yourself a Democrat business out. The Democrats are no longer about what's right. They're about ruining what's right. And the sooner you see that, the more comfortable you will feel with abandoning that label you've embraced of Democrat for yourself. Because if you have any morals left in you, calling yourself a Democrat is not a good look for you. As I said, the left, the Democrat Party, liberalism, these are no longer words associated with morality if they ever even were in the first place. So, there's the difference between a tent, a circus tent of every variety of satanic clown, and a coalition or movement to literally make America great again. And there's where the difference lies. You're either for morality and common sense, or you're for immorality and void of anything sensical at all. And that's, as I said, where the difference lies. And the sooner you figure this out, the better. Look, we've let people on our team, this team, who we would have never thought would be members of this team. Robert Kennedy Jr. The name Kennedy has been synonymous with the Democrat Party. The name Kennedy has been synonymous with the Democrat Party. JFK, RFK Sr., Ted Kennedy, Joseph Kennedy, all Democrats, all fighting members of the Democrat Party. And they fought the gallant fight. Hell, even Ted Kennedy drew up Title IX that the Biden administration contaminated. As a matter of fact, you had Democrats like Ted Kennedy that were so disgruntled with the moral decay of this country that he did not care that the incumbent president was a member of his own party. He threw his hat in the ring anyway. He lost, but he fought the good fight. And even had Carol O'Connor in his camp. Carol O'Connor, as you know, was the late great actor who played the famous character Archie Bunker in Norman Lear's legendary sitcom All in the Family. And so a lot of people did not know that Carroll O'Connor was nothing like the Archie Bunker character he played on TV, which just shows how epically good of an actor Carroll O'Connor was. I've seen made-for-TV movies where he played an angry Southern businessman trying to swindle a little girl out of a piece of property and a pony. I forgot the name of that made-for-TV movie, but it was meant to be serious, but seeing Carroll O'Connor play that part after seeing that face attached to Archie Bunker for so many years, I found it rather funny. But the point is, the Kennedys have been synonymous with the Democratic Party, and you got to be really screwed up in your camp to lose the most famous living member of that family, to the point where that famous living member of that family is now a member of the Trump administration in charge of Health and Human Services, replacing a fat guy in a dress that tries to sew up climate change to black oppression. Climate change is so bad, it is now racist, according to Rachel Levine, formerly known as Dick Levine, former head of Health and Human Services, replaced by Robert Kennedy Jr. Now let's talk about a congresswoman who ran for president as a Democrat against people like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And she called out the hypocrisy of the Democratic Party. She was blackballed, blacklisted, put on government watch lists, put on no-fly lists. And so she joined the team. She joined the coalition, she joined the movement, and she has an appropriate seat for her in the Trump administration. I see the next person to defect will probably be John Fetterman, because John Fetterman is fed up with the terrorist wing of his party. The terrorist wing of John Fetterman's party pretty much says that if you're a Jew, it's death to you. And I'll say it again. I'm not Jewish. I'll say it a few more times. I'm not Jewish, I'm not Jewish, I'm not Jewish. But I am appalled by anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is real, and it utterly appalls me. Now, John Fetterman, with the man at the end of his name, I'm assuming he's Jewish. So he's got some skin in the game, being a Jewish man, to oppose the terrorist wing of his party. And so he does, and people are speaking against him. They're holding the fact that he had a stroke against him, but they were okay with parading him in his sweats on Congress when he was barely climbing out of bed from that stroke. But now that he's saying some based stuff, there's something wrong with him now, according to the circus tent of the left. So many levels of hell where belong the left, and that's why people that don't want to burn up in the flames, people that don't want to be engulfed in the flames of hell that come from the left, are coming to the right side of this country's future and of this world's future. Dana Lash said it, but more notably, Dana White, founder of UFC, said it. We screw this up, it's a wrap. And it is true. This is the last bastion of freedom. And since its inception, has really been the only bastion of freedom. 249 years of how a country should be, or the closest thing to what a country should be. And there are people that model their countries after the United States, mistakenly calling their countries democracies. You know, we have a House of Congress, House of Senate, an executive branch, a judicial branch, and so they have things set up like that or similar to that in other countries. A lot of times they call them parliamentary governments, in which there's checks and balances, where the executive may have final say, but it has to be ran through a whole host of council before things are made into law. But they tweak it in such a way just to be different, and it doesn't quite get to where it needs to be. And thus, your freedoms in these other countries can still be tampered with. Hey, with the wrong person in office, we've witnessed freedoms being tampered with right here at home. So that proves that the United States of America might not be perfect, but it's the closest thing to it on this earth that has ever been on this earth. The closest thing to perfection on this earth that has ever been on this earth, as far as forming a government. So, not even Jesus was able to experience a country like the United States while walking the earth as flesh and blood. I personally, as a devout Christian, believe that as the Holy Spirit, he definitely had a hand in guiding the foundation of this country. And you could say this is a Christian nation. You could argue that it's not a Christian nation. But one thing you cannot deny is that this is a nation founded by Christians, clearly on Christian principles. Notice I say Christian principles, not Judeo-Christian principles. However, it allows for Judeo-Christian principles. But either way, we could safely say that this country was not meant to be a communist country. Communism is wrong. Communism is evil. Communism is of the devil. And I'm sure there is a place in the fiery depths of hell where Karl Marx belongs. He was an evil son of a bitch bastard. So was Che Guevara. So was Fidel Castro. So was Leonid Brezhnev, Joseph Stalin, Vladimir Lenin, and a host of others, Chairman Mao. We could go on and on and on. But the bottom line is this: we were never meant to be a communist country. We were never meant to be a country that fully obeys Sharia law. We were never meant to be a country that adopts fully pagan principles. We were never meant to be a coast-to-coast, unanimously atheist country. The First Amendment was not to make the United States a completely atheistic society. It was to ensure that no practiced religion within our borders and shores supersedes or takes control or power of any other faith that is practiced within our borders and shores. So yes, as evil as Satanism is, and Satanism is evil, it's devil worship, and don't let anybody tell you it's a philosophy that just mocks religion. No, it is not. It is blatant worship of Satan himself. It's blatant worship of Lucifer himself. As bad as it is protected by the First Amendment. However, you could still protect yourself by not practicing it and insisting that as long as your children live under your roof, that they not practice it. They are not allowed to bring any satanic artifacts into the home. You have the power to do that as a parent. I am the non-parent that gives sound advice on parenting. I am the non-soldier that has high expectations of our soldiers. I don't ever have to be a soldier to say that it's not logical to be okay with fat soldiers. It's common sense. I don't have to have a gun to be for gun rights. It would help, but I don't have to. Which is the beautiful thing about these here United States is freedom of speech. Which, by the way, was not something that was taken away from Jimmy Kimmel by government. He was on the verge of being fired for poor performance. When you are hired at a company or a corporation, your job is to make the place money or do your part of whatever it is that has a positive effect on the company or corporation's bottom line. And if you're producing negative numbers, or if they look at negative numbers and can trace those negative numbers back to you, then your bosses have every right to fire you, stop your bitch, and go look for another job. Or go on welfare and be a sponge, like all the people who seem to hate Donald Trump. And that's what happened with Jimmy Kimmel. It wasn't an attack on his free speech. It was a scrutiny of his job performance. And that's where people misinterpret and misrepresent the facts. Dirty bums shouldn't even be on TV. Guy's not even photogenic. Who does he think he is? Me? I should be on Channel 7 late at night. Not Kimmel. Kimmel's a bum. The guy belongs in hell, not on Channel 7. But here's where we're at. That's the difference between a coalition and a circus tent. This is why I support Donald Trump. This is why I'd rather die than not support Donald Trump. Oh, he won't take a bullet for you, blah, blah, blah. He's the president of the United States. You need your leaders. I don't think Donald Trump would take a bullet for his Secret Service, but they would take a bullet for him. That is correct, because there's chain of command, and you can't lose the head of a nation, because that destabilizes a nation. Remember Gaddafi? Remember Saddam Hussein? Remember the Shah of Iran? When you remove the head of a nation abruptly and hostilely, it destabilizes that nation, and more often than not, the region around that nation. So, yes, taking a bullet for the leader of the nation where you live is actually a noble and good thing. But, you know, you have people that don't see it that way. Democrat leaders use their supporters. Republican leaders empower their supporters. There's the difference between their circus tent and our coalition of unparalleled greatness. That's why the John Crancian way is so aligned with Make America Great Again. And that's why I had to say what I say and do what I do. That's why I'm on here each and every day talking to you folks from YouTube. Because we have to hammer the point home. We got some local elections coming up come November. Do not vote for any other mayoral candidate than Curtis Sliwa. Screw the polls. Screw the silly business people are saying about his hat, and just vote for him. He's the only one with the good policies. He's the only one with the good proposals. He's the one to vote for. You don't vote for same old when improvement is available just so you could prevent things from getting worse. You vote for what is available that has the better proposals, and that man for that job is Curtis Sliwa. So on to the I say, respect God, watch out for the Illuminati, like, follow, share, comment, subscribe, stay strong, keep kicking that slang. It's your boy in the building, hip-hop legend, recording engineer, underground rock and roll hero, your hardcore, fierce, and sexy host that is never gross, MC Too Tall. Be good.